at Cooper's Alehouse, Jeps Cross in Adelaide ahead of the Australian-New Zealand Invitational 15, taking on the British and Irish Lions as part of the Lions tour. I'm joined by Julian and Linden. Jules, I've had worse locations to do some of these recordings from. Not a bad venue.
Mate, it's a great venue. First of all, it's great being in South Australia. So I love the national footprint that the Lions bring. So normally when the Wallabies play each year, they don't go to every city in Australia. But because the Lions is such a monster-sized tour, 40,000 Brits coming out here, right, they come to places like Adelaide, and Adelaide's just a great joint. And then in a pub, I mean, they should pay us. Oh, they already are paying for this. No, it's great. It's really good. It's a great atmosphere, great buzz.
And you've seen all the Lions tours in Australia since '89. When you were a uni student, you've covered them since. What have you made of the tour so far, both how it's been received and how the Lions have performed?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I think there's a lot more unknowns in this tour. So I think when the Lions came here, there was an expectation that they were going to be almost invincible because the backbone of their team is this very good Irish side that's been winning a lot of Six Nations championships over last year. And they started off on fire, won their first two games, cracked up 50 points, looked like they're going to romp through. The last couple of games have been a bit trickier, right? So the game against the Waratahs, they had to work hard for that. And the game against the Brumbies midweek was a tough one as well. They gave up 4 tries. So it's game on at this stage, and it's really shaping up as a fascinating series.
Well, you wrote after the Brumbies game, definitely mighty opponents, this is the Lions, but they are not invincible. Has the last couple of games given you a bit more optimism for the Wallabies' chances for the 3-test series?
Yeah, it has. But look, the thing that we don't know is we don't know how much teams were holding back tactically as well. So, footy's no different to poker. You don't show your best hand straight away. I think it would be reasonable to expect that both the Wallabies and the Lions have been holding a little back. Look, the Wallabies beat Fiji last weekend, and it wasn't a great performance. They looked very rusty. They will need to play a lot better than they did. It was their first match together in 6 months. Fiji are a very underrated physical side who will test anyone. But even so, it wasn't sort of a knock-em-down performance from the Wallabies. And I think on the weekend, everyone was thinking, well, you know what, the Wallabies probably don't have a lot of chance in this. But then we saw what we believe to be a full-strength Lions team come out and play against an under-strength Brumbies team. And it was 9 tries in the game, 4 from the Brumbies. Lots of questions now.
And it wouldn't be a Lions tour without a lot of controversial discussion amongst fans and journalists alike. The Owen Farrell selection, son of the coach, hasn't just caused discussion, of course, for the tourists, but you were covering stories this week. It's caused some angst between a couple of Wallabies greats.
Yeah, don't you love it? I mean, footy's one of those sports that, people just argue all the time about selections. The Lions is always the most contentious selection team in the world because you've got players from 4 countries who play each other on a regular basis and don't like each other. They come together, and so there's always squabbles about, the Welsh believe more of their players should get in, the Scots believe more of theirs, and so on. But the introduction of Farrell, whose father, Andy, of course, is the coach, has caused a lot of debate, and 2 of our boys have got involved. So David Campese, one of the all-time greats, who calls it as he sees it.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we love about Campo. He's unapologetic for having a strong opinion, and he said, bad selection, daddy. Now, Matt Giddo, who, like Campo's, played 100 tests, he was quizzed about it and jumped on it, and he had a real crack at Campo and sent out a thing on Twitter, or X as the young kids call it these days, and said, mate, people are going to lose respect for you if you keep saying silly things. And so he had a crack at him. But Campo, being Campo, was asked about it on Talk Radio, which is a really popular UK radio station. And the great man came straight back at him and said he really doesn't care what Giddo thinks. He's entitled to his opinion. And there we are, 2 Aussie greats.
Well, we're in Adelaide, so let's look ahead to the game on Saturday night, and it is the Lions' last hit out before the first test, and their first against an invitational side. What should we be expecting from this Australian-New Zealand invitational team?
I don't know if any of us know what to expect, except I think this is going to be the most entertaining game of the entire tour because they're calling it an AUNZ Invitational team. They can't use the Anzac name because of they need government approval. It's really more like a barbarians game, isn't it? So it's Kiwis and Aussies come together. When we play each other on the footy field, we hate each other, but when we play together as one team, mate, this is a very, very good team that they've got. There are guys in there like Shannon Frizzell, who was a starter in the All Black side in the World Cup final in France a couple of years ago. Mate, this is a very, very good team. They will throw the ball around. They will want to entertain. They'll be physical. There'll be a bit of niggle in there. They'll want to bash the Lions. And for the Lions, there's a number of fringe players who'll be trying to force their way into that first test team. This is their last chance to impress Andy Farrell and the selectors and get in. So everybody's got something to play for. I reckon it's going to be the best game of the whole tour because it's not as intense as a test match and everyone's got something to play for.
In saying that, though, what kind of result do the Lions need just to quell a bit of that doubt that's crept up the last couple of games?
Oh, there's no better recipe for any team than winning games. Losing just takes the wind out of your sails. They've already lost a game. We forget they lost to Argentina in Dublin before they got on the big steel bird and flew to Australia. So, they kind of set them back, but they've recovered well. Look, they need a win. I think this would set them up perfectly going in into that first test, as opposed to a loss, which would. I think the more damaging aspect of the loss would not necessarily be what it does to the Lions' confidence. It's what it could do to the Wallabies' confidence. The Wallabies, as I was saying before, didn't really knock it out of the park when they played Fiji last week. But Joe Schmidt went down to Canberra and he was grinning like a Cheshire cat, watching that game, thinking, I tell you what, this may not be the greatest side of all. And so I think that would be the boost. It would be the boost to the Wallabies saying, hang on a minute, if the AUNZ Invitational team can beat them, then you know what, we can too.
And you mentioned Joe Schmidt. The man after him will be Les Kiss, the next Wallabies coach, who is coaching this AUNZ side. He's had a crack at the Lions already with the Queensland Reds, but from this game, will he give us any insight into how he might coach the Wallabies, given I guess he'll have the international aspect of this game with an AUNZ team and the short time frame, which I guess he'll have to deal with a bit more with the Wallabies than he would with the Reds?
Yeah, I don't think it'll give us a lot of clues into the way he'll approach the Wallabies when he takes over, because as you said, this is an unusual game. They come together, very short notice. You've got players from two different countries. He's also got like a panel of coaches as well. So Ian Foster, who coached the All Blacks in the World Cup final, is one of his assistant coaches. Got Simon Cron, who's in there as well. So it's kind of and I think the nature of the game is that they're probably going to give as many players as they can a run on the paddock, rather than when you're playing for a normal test match, you're just trying to win, right? So I don't think he's going to reveal everything about himself with this, because this is a one-off, but we should get a few ideas, Les, the hallmark of Les Kiss, when he was a rugby league player for the North Sydney Bears and before he turned coaching, is that, mate, he's very much defence orientated. That's his go-to. And I think that will be a strong emphasis again on the weekend. Powerful defence.
Well, it certainly sounds like there'll be plenty to look forward to at Adelaide Oval on Saturday night. You'll be covering the game for codesports.com.au. I think I might watch it here at Cooper's Ale House, Jeps Cross. Beautiful big screen next to us. Also, best venue, I've been told, to watch AFL and UFC in Adelaide. And if you can't make it to the game on Saturday night, you'll be in Adelaide for any of the Lions tests. Pop down here to Cooper's Ale House. Well, we're moving around Adelaide at the moment. We're currently at the AUNZ Invitational Team Hotel, and they've named their lineup for Saturday's game at Adelaide Oval. Jules is back with me. Anything from the team announcement that caught your eye?
Well, I'll tell you what catches my eye, and I guess this is kind of obvious, but gee, I tell you what, it's a good team, right? So there's like 17 blokes with test experience. Okay, so that's from the Wallabies and from the All Blacks. It's a very strong team, and they're gonna push the Lions. This is gonna be a good match. This will be very good match.
We were saying it before, but this will be the toughest test the Lions have faced to date.
Yeah, and they just brought in a couple of the players. You can see from the resolve, that they're on board with this. Les Kiss is the head coach, and they're up for this. It's going to be a great contest.
We've also just watched Les Kiss, the coach, and a couple of the players at a media conference, and obviously Wallabies All Blacks have been rivals for many years, but there was actually a message of unity in today's media conference.
Yeah, like united by the enemy, right? So they both want to beat the Lions, and Les spoke about what it would mean for the tour, right? So, the Lions have got a lot at stake here. If they lose this game, they don't get another game before they go into the first test, and everyone's committed to it. So, he was asked at one point, what is your priority? Is it about winning the game? Is it about softening them up for the Lions? Is it about entertaining and putting on a show? And his message was they're letting the players decide, which for me I think makes them more dangerous, because if Les Kiss's coach doesn't know exactly how the players are going to approach it, then how can the opposition know? So I think this is going to be a wild, helter-skelter match.
Well, you were the one that asked Les Kiss that question about what do you want out of this game and softening them up, and he wouldn't bite. But
No.
Future Wallabies coach, and obviously keen for them to do well in the Test series, there would be a part of him that would have the Test series in mind, though.
Yeah, of course, and they'd love to soften them up a little bit. But I think more the win, anything. But there's also players auditioning for spots here. So the Wallabies squad is going to be announced before this match is played on the eve. But that doesn't mean that players who miss out, who are playing in this game, can't force their way into it, and they will know that as well. Big performances here will count for a lot.
Well, we're on the move again. This time we're at the very impressive St Peter's College here in Adelaide, where the British and Irish Lions are training, and they've just held a media conference as well. So I'm pleased to be joined by Alfie Reynolds from our friends at TalkSport. Alfie, before we look at this game on Saturday, just a couple of close games for the Lions against the Brumbies and Waratahs, probably closer than the British and Irish Lions would have liked. How is the press pack feeling about their chances given the past couple of results?
Yeah, there's definitely more questions about the Lions now than there previously was. And they're a really hard team to judge, because I think unquestionably Andy Farrell, and he's admitted this, they're holding something back for that Test series against Australia in the same way the Wallabies are. So they're a hard team to judge. For me, the big questions really revolve around how much have they improved since the Argentina game in Dublin, which they lost, to where they are now. And the concerning thing is we've seen quite a few familiar issues, I suppose. The breakdown in the aerial game in particular continue to be a problem for them.
And looking at the lineup that's just been named by Andy Farrell, these are more the fringe players heading into the first test next week. What were your thoughts looking at the team?
Yeah, I think probably what you would have expected when we saw the team for the Brumbies. You looked at it and thought that there's a good chance that's going to make up the bulk of the test team, the first test team. I don't think it's an absolutely done and dusted. I think there's absolutely an opportunity for players in this side to play their way into the test team. And I suppose the headline is Owen Farrell on the bench, called up somewhat controversially, I guess some people might say, but he was called up into the squad, hasn't been there too long, making his fourth Lions tour, which is an incredible achievement.
Insane.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable achievement, but his form and fitness in France has been an issue this year. We haven't seen the best of Owen Farrell, so what he looks like when he gets onto the pitch, I think is going to be fascinating.
Talking to my colleague Julian Linden before, he's covered previous Lions tours and has said that when it comes to selection issues, that they're in terms of the British and Irish press pack, it kind of goes by country. So in this instance, the English journalists are like, oh yeah, that works. And it might be the other journalists from Ireland and Wales and Scotland that might be more sceptical. Is that how you found it?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think with the Owen Farrell selection, it's in many ways it seems mad. But you can absolutely rationalise it, I think, in the mind of Andy Farrell, in terms of the experience they lost with Elliot Daly, a man that had been on the two previous tours. There's not too many players in this squad that have done a proper Lions tour. There's quite a few of them that toured in South Africa, but it was COVID. They were in the same hotel. There was no fans. It's not a proper Lions experience. So you can understand the rationality, I suppose, of calling Owen Farrell up, the amount of Lions experience he has. And I suppose you say, look, if you can get him somewhere close to his best, he can add a huge amount of value to this squad. It's absolutely a risk. There's no question about that, particularly depending on how bad Blair Kinghorn's injury is and if that's going to leave them light at fullback. But I tell you, it's great for the tour, though, isn't it? It's a great story. It's a great story.
And you've mentioned that spots are up for grabs in this game. Some are set in stone, but a few are up for grabs. The midfield is something that stands out. Anything else you're looking for, that any positions that are particularly you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think the big one really, which is absolutely no surprise, we've been speaking about this from before the squad was even announced, which is the back row. I mean, the amount of quality open sides the Lions have in this squad is absolutely incredible. So in particular, I think the back row balance and what the Lions are going to go for, I feel like heading towards the Test series, they're going to go for power against the Wallabies, which might be a Byrne or a Chesham at 6. But you look at this back row and you've got the likes of Jack Morgan and Henry Pollock and Ben Earl. It's a kind of more dynamic out-and-out sevens in the back row. So how they get on and their performance, I think, is definitely something I'll be keeping an eye on, because what they do in the back row is going to be key for the Test series, because as I mentioned previously, on the floor, it's been a huge issue at the breakdown for them. And
it got mentioned in both the media conferences today, but this AUNZ side is probably a bit more of a Barbarians team than what the Lions might expect in a Test match. Is that a good thing for the final hit out before the game, or would Andy Farrell have liked something, I guess, a bit he would have expected in the Test match? And how do you think this game will pan out?
Well, it's funny because I asked Andy Farrell that, is this going to be a Barbarians game? And he said, I don't think it's going to be quite to that level. So do you know what? Before the tour, I looked at this game and I felt, God, you know what? The Lions would probably really prefer not to have this match. Off the back of playing the Brumbies, the best Australian Super Rugby team, surely they'd rather 10 days preparation. What's this team going to look like? But now that I've seen it, there's a huge amount of question marks there of what they'll look like. I think it could be one of the toughest tests the Lions face on this tour. Packed full of quality players who've got nothing to lose. There might be an element of a Barbarians type game, but they're well coached with Les Kiss and the coaches they've got in place. So I do think it's going to be a much better game than many of us might have expected, and a much bigger challenge for the Lions. Let's hope so as well, because let's be frank, some of the tour games out here, we're kind of waiting for that spark to really light this tour and to really explode into life. This could be it. We'll see.
And is there a result, obviously wanting to win the game, but it isn't going to be the full Test team, but is there a result that will just silence those doubts? Is there a scoreline in your head that might just quieten a few doubts before the first Test?
I wouldn't say it's too much to do with scoreline. Don't get me wrong, a kind of really commanding, comfortable victory would do them a world of good and silence some of those critics. I think it's more about being more consistent, not being troubled as much at the breakdown. As I've mentioned a number of times already, that's kind of the theme of the week so far. It's been an issue for the Lions. That not being as much of an issue, the aerial game being more secure. I think it's looking to tighten up certain areas of the game is the big thing for the Lions. If they do that, plus get a decent victory, I think they're going to be in a pretty healthy place heading into the first Test.
Well, we wish the Lions well, not too well, and we wish you well for the rest of the tour. Thanks for joining.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, there you have it. The AUNZ Invitational side taking on the British and Irish Lions here in the City of Churches at the Adelaide Oval on Saturday night. Back with Julian Linden. Julian, just what's something from the game on Saturday outside of the result? And obviously we want to see how the Lions perform. What's something we should be keeping an eye out for that you're going to be looking out for?
Yeah, the rugby games are won and lost in the engine room, and it's not the sexiest thing of all positions. But I'm really interested to see how the loose head prop Aidan Ross goes. Now, for people who don't know Aidan Ross, he's an All Black, played for New Zealand, but he's born in Australia, and he's just served his eligibility period, and he'll be able to be selected for the Wallabies. So he is really on an audition here to see what he can do. There are some question marks about the Australian front row. I think how he goes and the scrums will be fascinating.
And I've left it this long, but I'm going to ask you for a prediction, a result. Who do you think will the Lions get up, and what kind of scoreline can you see?
Yeah, I think this is the trickiest game of the entire tour to pick. I'm going to go for an upset, and I'm going to go for the combined Australia-New Zealand team to win.
Wow.
In a high-scoring 35-32 contest.
Well, there you have it. The upset being called by Julian Linden. You'll have Jamie Pandaram with you next week. Thank you again to the Coopers Ale House in Jeps Cross, and follow the work of Julian Linden and Jamie Pandaram as they cover the British and Irish Lions tour on Code Sports.